This video is about one of my favourite non-automotive niches, which would be torches. Olight, the manufacturer of fine pieces of craftsmanship such as this, which we'll get to in just a second, is having a sale. It starts basically now and it winds up on Friday the 26th of September at midnight with substantial discounts across the range. And if you look in the description just down here somewhere, there will be a code that unlocks a further 5% discount even on the already discounted products. So there's that. Now, the reason I am, so to speak, in bed with Olight is I tried their product several years ago, 5 years ago or something now, and I really liked it. And the more I kept trying their product, the more I kept liking it. In fact, I carry my trusty Marauder Mini 2 every day, and you can see the slings and arrows of outrageous treatment which I have given it throughout the course of its life, and it steadfastly refuses to die. It is the freaking cockroach of torches following the nuclear holocaust of abuse in which I have inflicted upon it. It's been superseded now, but I can't bring myself to get rid of it because my abuse has made it and I somehow closer, and there's an emotional bond now. Anyway, what I thought was, the thing about going to Olight's website is there's like 10,000 torches seemingly, and how the hell does one know which one is best for one? So I thought I'd bring you 10 that are really, really good. And the basic premise here is that torches are not a one-size-fits-all proposition. The best torch for you might not be the best torch for your corporate weasel neighbour with skinny jeans and his hair in a freaking bun, dude. So with that in mind, the vast variation in society and the fact that not all torches are the same, here are 10 that I think might suit you depending, starting with the Mr. Puniverse of torches, which is this one with a little oi, oi, oi on the barrel. I hope you can see that. The Aussie flag, dude. That's new for this month. This thing is called the i3T, and it is the only Olight I'm going to talk to you about today that has a conventional non-rechargeable battery. This is just a AAA, so it's ideal for the kiddies. It's not much of an investment, and it's a good way to teach them that it's good to have a torch in your pocket or your bag or something, because one never knows when one might need a little bit of light, just, you know, to brighten things up ever so slightly, and you might be setting them on that right sort of Lord Baden-Powell pathway. This is a great way to do it, and right now these are less than $25, so there's not much at stake if they lose it or deep six it or whatever. i3T with the Aussie flag. Oi, freaking oi, dude. Now the next one is this thing here. It's called a swivel for reasons that we'll get to in just a second, and it's a real torch outside the box because it's a torch, okay, but it's also a work light. Imagine that. You can adjust the brightness, and it swivels, which is kind of useful if you want to sit it on the ground and, you know, aim it up at the spare wheel that you're about to change because you've got a flat tire in the middle of the night out in the frickin' boonies or something. But it's got a few other tricks up its sleeve as well that I really think are clever. Like, it's magnetic, so you can stick it to anything that's ferromagnetic. And this hook here is also a carabiner, so you can hang it from lots of different stuff as well. And obviously you can adjust the angle at to suit whatever the prevailing job is, right? So diagnosing something in the engine bay suddenly got a whole lot easier than doing it by braille. It is USB-C rechargeable, so that's fairly universal these days. And I just think this is one of the most brilliant pieces of Olight engineering that I have ever seen. These things are great in the shed and even better in the car, and on sale I think they're under about $40. So they're made of ABS plastic, they don't weigh much, they fit in your bag just fine, and they can get you out of some pretty deep doo-doo if you need to MacGyver the crap out of something in an unscripted way. So 13 points out of a possible 10 for the swivel, which also doesn't break the bank. What next? Another torch out of the box, which is this little thing here. It's a wonder of miniaturization, actually, for obvious reasons here. It's called the O-Clip Pro. And it's got a lot of features built in, such a pint-sized package. There's no excuse possible for not having this in your pocket or your handbag, right? Because it's got so many features too. Like, it's got a spotlight and a floodlight. Might be the other way around, I think. Let me just check. Yeah, floodlight, spotlight. And it's got a red light with two different modes. You're looking at the distress beacon, warning beacon kind of mode now, but the press and hold will give you the red light for just walking around in the boonies at night. And this is really useful because red light doesn't destroy your night vision as much as bright white light would. So if you need to walk from A to B in the bush, this is not a bad asset to have if you also want to retain the rest of your night vision. You know, you want to look over there while the torch is over there. You won't be just looking at blue splotches or something. So that's really clever and useful. It's also magnetic, and obviously you can clip it on any sort of molly webbing, or you can clip it on any other kind of man bag if your head is in a bun. Hair is in a bun. Don't put your head in a bun, dude. That's a bad idea. And it also just clips inside a shirt, like polo shirt with buttons on the front. You can stick it on your T-shirt, you know. The world is you stick it on Oyster with an O-clip, and these things are remarkably well engineered as well. It's got a little metal door here with a USB-C recharging. So there's that. This was torch number 3, not USB 3. Now, if you're ever attacked in the street by a marauding horde of Amazon boxes or something and you want to open them up, then this thing is called the U1 Pro, because Olight also do a tidy little line of knives. And this one's really clever in my view. It's kind of the knife that most people would need if people need a knife. And that is because it takes these standard, what do they call them, trapezoidal utility blades. So you don't need to worry about sharpening this baby. You just need to buy a little box of blades, and when you dull one, you just go again. You can also just reverse them in the field, obviously, because there'll be a sharp portion down there, just if you blunt the bit up here. But that's kind of useful and probably good in your tool bag. If you want a more conventional knife, we're still on point number 4 here, but the option is something like this. This is my favourite conventional O-knife, which is called a Robato 2. It doesn't have a stupid pointy point on it, so it's quite useful. And the action is super slick, right? For one-handed operation, it's just a little bit of a flick. It's not illegal because all I'm doing is opening it up to defeat the retention spring and then giving it a bit of a flick. And then you just practice and practice and practice in your misspent youth, and boom, there you go. And then you get to do it with your non-dominant hand, and then the world is your knife-wielding oyster. The real advantage of one-handed operation too has got nothing to do with any nefarious objective. It's just if you're up a ladder, right, and you want to maintain 3 points of contact because you don't want to plunge to your death or disability, then you can do that, right? Just knife out of the pocket, boom, cut whatever you need to cut, and you don't need to pull your other hand off the rung and balance precariously on your feet like 4 meters up in the air. If you're battling a horde of zombies up a ladder, the occupational health and safety policies at work about 3-point contact need not be violated with a knife such as this, or the U1 Pro, because that's fully compatible with one-handed operation as well. Back in torch domain, I think we should talk about the Parin 3 kit. This is also one of these super out-of-the-box, literally and figuratively, torches, because this is just a tiny little torch with a pocket clip, right? You can see how small it is. And it's got the beam on the barrel as opposed to on the end. So you turn it on, there's your light, but you can hold it like this. So if you've got to walk around the boonies forever, then this is a much more natural and comfortable position for your wrist than another sort of torch that you might have to kind of hold like that in a glorified way. That gets quite tiring for a long period of time, whereas this is a much more natural orientation for your hand. The tricks do not end there though, because despite it's also got a red light mode as discussed previously with the O-Clip Pro. The case is a battery, okay? So it'll recharge your torch when your torch gets depleted after a few hours of use. You can see the green light there that indicates that it is charging. But there's also USB down here, USB-C, so you can power them both up, like you can charge them both up with a USB power source, but you can also use it as USB power out. So if you want to give you a quick jolt to your phone or something, in my case I use a few of these to power the little Sony ZV-1 cameras that I'm literally running the show on these days. So it's quite versatile, and then you only have to carry one thing in your bag. You don't have to carry a USB power bank and a torch and blah, blah, blah. It's all just the one thing, which makes life somehow simpler if you are on the hoof often enough. So to me, that's a really clever thing as well. And it comes with a headband kit. So there's an elastic headband that the torch just clips into. It's like a one-handed clip. There's your head torch. And that means if you get that flat tire or anything else in the middle of the night in the boonies, you can deal with that, as well as if you need to provide sort of first aid assistance one day to someone who's had a fall or some other serious injury and you need both hands and you need to see what you're doing, then a head torch is a really good option for that, because the light is essentially wherever you are looking. You know, earlier I was talking about the corporate weasel with his hair in a bun. Well, if you're him and you need a torch, then the Arcfeld Ultra is the torch for you, dude. I really like the finish on the outside here. I can't remember the specifics about it, but it's the first. Let's get first things first. All of these Olights with this round thing on the base is a magnetic hookup type charger. So you get a cable with the torch and boom, there's your recharging solution. It is USB-A on the other end. So this like self-locating, dude, check this out. That's really clever. Olight's really good at magnets. I don't know what it is about Olights and magnets, but they do it really well. And USB-A at the other end. So there's a power source with USB-A on it seemingly anywhere. Now, the skinny jean thing. This profile is really suited to the skinny jean, and I'm only being a facetious asshole about that because it's really comfortable in your jeans. It doesn't take up much room in this pressing against the thigh sort of dimension. So if your jeans are a bit tight because, you know, you're carrying a lot of other stuff or they're really skinny, then that's great, okay? And then functionality-wise, you get a laser pointer, right, to annoy the cat or suitable other dumb things like the CEO and the managing director kind of thing. In a vital PowerPoint presentation, that's always entertaining. Take that, you goose, kind of thing. Up this end, a little something for the weekend. For playing doctor, you get an ultraviolet light. Also good for finding scorpions on the beach in case you want to stick them in the mother-in-law's sleeping bag or something of that nature. And then obviously you also get a fairly bright torch, which is probably this device's most useful feature on balance. But you get a battery indicator too. I don't know if you can see that there. I'll just power it up again. There's your battery indicator with 4 levels. I hope you can see that there. I'm not so sure. But anyway, trust me, it is there. So there's that. What after that? Now, camping and adventuring and search and things of this nature, the Marauder Mini is one of the most versatile torches for those kinds of outdoor adventuring operations. It's got the same round thing. Boom, there's your recharging solution. Pretty simple, okay? Now, the reason I like this for outdoor adventuring is you can tell by the pointy end, so to speak, that it is really bright. You can't activate it accidentally in a bag or a vehicle or a boat or anything of that nature because you have to turn the dial until the blue lights activate. And then once you've done that, and only once you've done that, the trigger is active. Your weapon's hot, baby, and you get a really bright searchlight or a really bright floodlight. So let's just go through those like on an angle so you can see what I'm talking about. This is floodlight mode as we speak, and that is searchlight mode. You can probably see the round circle of light there, so it's really easy to switch in between them, and you can crank it, baby, like you can crank it red hot. That means in search mode, you can look hundreds and hundreds of meters across the water or across a valley, whatever, or you can signal a hell of a long way as well if you need to be rescued. So there's that. And in floodlight mode, you can put an insane amount of relatively diffuse light around a campsite if you need to just check a broad area, literally. And then when you get back inside a tent or a swag or something of that nature in the back of a vehicle, you don't need to burn everyone's retinas out with it on its brightest setting. So you just turn the dial on the barrel to adjust there. And it lasts for ages, but if you're in a car or a boat, you'll have USB out. There's no reason for it not to be fully charged and on the charger when not in use. So that is the Marauder Mini. And the next thing I want to talk about is your more conventional style of everyday carry. And I hate this term, but it is used for these torches, the so-called tactical torch. Now, if you're not in America, like in America, the best thing you can carry for personal security is probably a SIG or a Glock, Beretta, something of that nature. But in a non-permissive environment like Australia, where you're not allowed to carry a weapon for self-defense, and I know this makes Americans' heads explode. If you're attacked, you can defend yourself in Australia a bit, but you can't carry a weapon specifically for self-defense. That is illegal. But one of the best things you can carry that's not a weapon for your own personal security, and let's face it, there's dodgy shit happening everywhere, seemingly all the time. Like, just look at the news about these machete attacks in Melbourne. And let's reframe that ever so slightly. If you've got a torch in your pocket and somebody approaches you with a machete and says, my good man, I'd like your wallet and your phone, or I'm going to cut your hand off kind of thing, then you might respond with boom. There's a really bright light in your eyes, and then all your assailant can see, you haven't injured them, but all your assailant can see is purple and blue and green splotches. It's hard for him to get missile lock on you, in other words, and it might buy you sufficient time to piss off. And you haven't really injured him, so you won't be in court later, kind of thing. So with that in mind, these are quote-unquote tactical torches. They have a sub-brand name in the Olight universe called Warrior. This is the Warrior Nano for obvious reasons, because it's only a few fingers wide. It's only like 4 fingers wide, and therefore there's no reason for not carrying it. You know what I mean? These tactical torches have a couple of common features. One would be a little switch like this one just here on the barrel, and that would be for what I would call quote-unquote the fine work. You can dial in the brightness you need for various jobs, and when you can take your time to do this and that, that's great. But if you need light in a hurry, the charging pad at the back is also a switch for the brightest setting. There's actually 2 switches. It's like a 2-stage switch. You get a half press for not that bright, and a long press, like a hard press, for really, really bright. And this is good when seconds count, because if it's coming out of your pocket quickly, you locate your thumb on the end. You don't have to dick around and find the switch on the barrel and press it and worry about what brightness setting. You just need to get your thumb on the back of the torch and aim it in the general direction of the zombies attacking you, and then all of a sudden you're 100% Mila Jovovich battling the Umbrella Corporation, boom, kind of thing. So the other thing to remember is that in a stressful situation, your body gets flooded with these stress hormones like cortisol and noradrenaline and things of that nature, and it also shuts down your blood supply to your extremities, so your dexterity is compromised, and all these negative things happen. So it's much easier to do that than it is to rotate and do that and find the switch and think to yourself, how do I adjust the brightness again? Because then you're just covered in zombies and the world's not your oyster, and I want the world to be your oyster. So this is the Warrior Nano. Its middle-sized brother, sister, whatever, is the Warrior Mini 3, which is the upgrade on the torch that I showed you earlier that I carry every day. It's got all the same features. It's got a better switch. It's slightly more compact. It's a bit brighter. It's got a better pad at the back for charging. Easier to clean, because in a workshop environment like this, you're always getting metal dust and swarf stuck to the magnets. This is easier to wipe than the other switch. So that's all good. The only thing that's a step backwards in my view is that the orientation of the clip is, with the other one you can change the clip around so you can go bezel up like this or bezel down like that in your pocket, so switch up or bezel up kind of thing. And I prefer bezel down every time, but the orientation of this clip is bezel up. So there's just a little bit more manual dexterity required to pull the torch out, bezel up, and then rotate it and get it into your hand. Whereas if it comes out bezel down, it's like much easier to get on the job quickly. This is substantially brighter than the Warrior Nano, and obviously it's a bit longer as well. I'm going to say it's about 30, 32, 35 millimeters longer without measuring it. It's a little bit heavier, but that's inconsequential. The same diameter, so really in the pocket is just as easy. And for all these reasons, the Mini 3 is probably a better bet than the Nano, unless you really are sort of compromised on space. There's that to think about. And then finally, I think we're talking about the Warrior Ultra, which when you look at it is a substantially bigger proposition. It's not skinny jean friendly by any stretch of the imagination, but it's substantially brighter, and yet it still retains the barrel switch with its brightness adjusting abilities. There's also a sensor on the barrel here, like a proximity sensor, so that when you've got it on maximum brightness, when it gets close to something, you see there, it just closes down the brightness intensity, so you don't get it to activate in your bag and, you know, overheat something in there, because it is quite warm on maximum brightness. This is a very slick torch. It's made of that same grade of Olight aluminium that the Arcfeld Ultra is made out of. It's a nice finish, and the material itself is very tough. So if my aluminium Olight Warrior Mini 2 is anything to go by, the base model aluminium was actually pretty durable. This stuff is just better. It's an evolution, if you like, of this other torch that's almost identical called the Warrior 3S. I always get them mixed up. I have a mental block whether it's S3 or 3S, but it's actually the 3S. Everything about it is almost the same, and I just think this is a superior material and finish upgrade compared with the 3S. It's just a little bit harder to carry, and that's the final point I want to make. For all the reasons that this is probably the best torch here, it's not the best torch if you don't have it on you when you need it. And if its size and its weight is a reason for you not to have it on you because you're going for a run or something and you don't want it pulling your DAX down every few hundred metres, which does get old, if you don't want it to do that, then a lighter torch is a much better idea. So the absolute best torch that you've got at any time is the torch that you've got on you, right? It's not the torch that you've got at home, it's the torch that you've got on you when you absolutely do need light. So if it's a tiny little torch like this is the best thing to have on you if the alternative was nothing, right? And if the weight and size thing is a real reason not to carry it in some situations, and like meeting the Queen, you're probably not going to carry a torch this big, right? Or going to the opera or whatever. But a torch is a really good thing to have. Like, what are you going to do if you're, I don't know, in the subway or the underground, whatever you call it, and there's some sort of event where the lights go down? That's going to be a problem, except if you've got a torch. And same thing in a building. If you have some sort of event in a city where the power goes down in a building, what are you going to do if you have to escape the building and the fire escape and the lights aren't on? That's going to be a real problem because, you know, you've had some sort of systematic failure along the way. So these things don't happen very often, thankfully, but when they do, a torch is a dead set asset. You know, like even if you drive over the crest and you come on a car crash and all of a sudden it's you and a bunch of victims and you've got to triage the shit out of that. Like, sure, you can park your car somewhere and aim the headlights at it maybe, but you've got to think about using your car as cover to prevent someone from running into you while you're trying to be a good Samaritan on the scene of some crash. And that might not be the most opportune place for the car to be, also to illuminate the predicament. So if you've got a torch, things just get a whole lot easier, don't they? And for this reason, I've been a big fan of Olights, because of the hundreds of torches they've sent me, I've only one has failed. Let's put it that way. And I'm going to give that one a free pass because I tried to kill that, and it had a long time at the torchy equivalent of Gitmo being asked some very serious questions by a particularly evil bastard, and I froze it solid in a block of ice for a week and then smashed it out of that by throwing it on the ground. And then it worked, and then I just hurled it up in the air and let it land on the concrete until it stopped working when it landed like bezel down really hard on the 17th or 18th try. So I'm not going to damn that particular torch. It was one of these. It was a Warrior X something, X Pro or whatever they called it back then, but it was remarkably durable given the harsh environment that I subjected it to. And more than anything else, it's a testament that these things are engineered for more abuse than I would throw at them. Most of them are, certainly all the tactical torches are waterproof to some substantial depth, and they're also drop tested. And when you pull them apart, you can really feel the quality of the manufacturing. The Mini has got, I can't tell like this because I'm functionally blind without glasses now, because isn't nature wonderful? Getting old is awesome. But no, it's got one O-ring there, and I think there's another O-ring in there. Anyway, it's got at least one O-ring and a gasket seal on the end in here. So it's really good in a harsh environment. You know, water and heat and mechanical shocks within reason don't really damage these torches at all. They can withstand that till the cows come home. That's my impression. I've dropped this off a ladder. I've dropped it off the bench several times. It sits in my pocket and goes to battle with my stainless steel Leatherman often enough. You can see the obvious abrasive scars of that. The pad on the switch, which used to be black, is worn through, but is otherwise, the colour is worn through. But the pad itself, the plastic pad, the switch has been upgraded to a metal one now, but this plastic pad still has remarkably good integrity. So there's your endurance test, your accelerated life test, and that's why I'm a fan of Olight. And I don't recommend products just for the kickback. I've got to love them as well and believe in them, and I do both of those things when it comes to Olight. They do a shit-hot job. They're really good at it, and their torches only get better over time. There are a few kooky ones in there that I probably wouldn't buy with my own money, but all of these ones are absolutely starters. They're absolute winners if you are that particular, in that niche, that particular kind of user, the hardcore off-road adventurer, the part-time zombie battler, or the corporate weasel with his hair in a bun and the skinny jeans who needs a laser pointer to annoy the managing director from time to time. Don't forget the end date on the sale. It's Friday the 26th at midnight. And don't forget the code as well, which is down there in the description, that will unlock a further 5% discount on any of these new Olights, even if already discounted. Thank you very much for watching. I'll check you on the next video.